Can manage AI summaries and settings. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. I probably need to tone down all these spots, my hyperpigmentation stuff that's going. I probably should put on a powder or something. I'm just like looking, and I'm going, do I really want to fight with my makeup case? No, let me get some powder. I want to look a little bit better here. Hold on. Hold on, folks. I'll be with you in a moment. I haven't opened up my big makeup box in a long, 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 long while. Okay. I just love being a woman, you know, the fact that I can change my looks at any time. Okay. So I hope everybody's having a great weekend and that you had a great week. For those of you who don't know me, mm, I'm Dr. Tochi, mama of the men's and the women's. And indeed, we're going to have a class today. Today we're going to talk about the fourth obstacle that you experience when you do not answer your spiritual call. So make sure you have your drink and your snack, your notebook and your pen. We're going to have a little bit of fun. Has anybody used this before, this HD flawless thing? I think it's a little bit too much for the skin, like maybe too much clay or something in it, or is there some kind of way of using this? Because when I put it on my skin, I just feel like it's like clay. It's so heavy, like clay. Anyway, if you need to get a hold of me for your divinations and consultations, please go to my website at drtochi.com or tochi.us. I don't do transactions outside of my website. Okay. Be sure to do something good for yourself this week. Okay. We're getting to the end of 2025. And well, let me use the other brush. We're getting to the end of 2025. And believe it or not, there are so many of us who are out here in these streets who have not taken the time to do something good for ourselves throughout 2025. Okay. Thank you to all of you who are joining me on TikTok. I'm trying to do my rich auntie thing here while we talk about today's class. And in today's class, we're going to talk about the fourth obstacle that you might experience if you do not answer your spiritual call. Okay. I have found that in my consultations, my divinations, I would say over the past 2 to 3 years, I have come across so many people who have been called to spiritual practice. Okay. Um, no, not ever. Okay. I don't know what question that was answering. Okay. So, um, It's just like it's almost like every other person who comes to me for consultation has been called to spiritual practice. And imagine if a person is coming to me for divination and they're already 40 years old, 50 years old, and they're hearing for the first time um, that they have been called to spiritual practice. Makeup. Oh, okay. I got you, Elder Light. I was like, okay, I had already moved on. So I was like, okay, what is she referring to? Okay, well, happy birthday in advance to you, Missouri Penda. Okay, so imagine that you've gone through 40 years of your life and 50 years of your life, and you're just discovering that you've been called to spiritual practice. That can be a bit confusing. It could be a bit challenging. And I've come to understand that people sometimes need to take a step back and say, well, what does this mean for me that I'm called to spiritual practice? You know, I have my life doing this thing, or I'm having my problems that I'm trying to resolve, or I'm trying to lay my hands on some money. And here you are telling me that you're called to spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is how you have signed up to help yourself and help others in a spiritual way, in a non religious way. Okay. It is how you have signed up. Not everybody has to be a diviner. Not everybody has to be a tarot card reader. Not everybody has to be a priest or a priestess of the water, of the earth, of the whatever. But being called to spiritual practice means you have been called to be a priestess. You have been called to be a priest. You have been called to be a priestess and you have been called to be a priest. And I understand when people need time to wrap their minds around that because in their heads they're like thinking, no, a priest is someone who goes to a seminary and spends all these years and they come out and they wear this impressive robe, you know, and they talk to people and they pray for people and they have special powers. um to the point that God will listen to them first before listening to the ordinary person. And I'm here to tell you that that is not so. There is nothing wrong with you being the priest or the priestess of your own religion. And your religion comes from your spirituality. Okay. Your religion comes from your spirituality, not the other way around. And so, if in this lifetime you have been called to be a priestess, you could be a quiet priestess. You don't have to be out by the riverside wearing some unusual outfits, beating drums and dancing sensuous dances. You don't have to do all that. There are many people who are quiet priestesses. There are many people who are quiet priests. And they serve in quietness, and their community knows them. And they may have some other regular, degular job out there, but they still serve. And people know to come to them for help because they are a priestess, because they are a priest. There are some people called to spiritual practice to exercise their gift and knowledge of healing. Some are called to spiritual practice to exercise their gift of herbs. Some are called to spiritual practice to be conflict resolutionists. They're the ones who quell conflict in the society, and they bring peace. And people look at them and say, does this person have some kind of magical power that they exert to bring peace? No, that is their calling. When they open their mouths to speak, people shut up and listen. And when you try to compare yourself to them, when you open up your mouth to speak, someone says, shut up, sit down. But when this person who has that spiritual gift stands up to speak, everywhere goes quiet. And even the most conflict ridden person in the room feels compelled to shut up and listen. That's a spiritual gift. There are some people who have spiritual gifts with animals. We call them the dog whisperers and the horse whisperers and the cat whisperers and the cow whisperers, or what kind of whisperers out there. There's a young man I've seen a number of times on TikTok. I don't remember his username, his handle. He kind of looks Hispanic. I might be mistaken, but he's good with dogs. And people will take their dogs to them, dogs that are on the way to the pound, dogs that are on the way to being taken out. And you will see in the video the dog is vicious, dog be biting people. But in a matter of seconds, when he holds that dog's leash, the dog will calm down and the dog will start obeying. Okay? The dog will start obeying him. And the owners of the dog will be there looking like, what did you do? What did you do? That's his gift. I like dogs. I play with dogs. I basically have no fear of dogs, but I'm I don't know that I'll be trying to interact with a biting dog. Okay. All right. There are certain things I just won't do. And one of them is trying to interact with a biting dog. Okay. So, being called to spiritual practice doesn't mean that you have to give up your lifestyle and you cannot wear makeup and you cannot wear fancy clothes and you cannot get your nails did and your hair did. That's not true. You can get, you can live your life, but the key word of your life, the key thing in your life, the key word, the signature of your life will become service. You know what I'm saying? I probably should put on a lip balm first. So it's service. There are some people called to spiritual practice, and their practice is to be teachers, doing some, doing like what I'm doing. That's their practice, to teach, to impart knowledge, to share information. That's what they're supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be out there doing rituals or, carrying chickens over their heads. Their job is to teach. Do I want to put the setting spray? I might as well put a setting spray. Okay. So, you know, other people might be out there reading cards, you know, stirring pots, brewing one thing or the other. But the person whose gift of teaching will focus on teaching. The person whose spiritual gift of teaching will be teaching. And oftentimes they will teach, and oftentimes they will teach from their experience. They will teach from their mistakes. They will teach from what they have studied, what they've learned from others. That, dear ones, is a form of spiritual practice. Spiritual practice doesn't mean that you have to be sitting in a dirty shrine or you have to be half naked and that you have to be doing weird things. That is not what spiritual practice is. Spiritual practice is you're going to use your gifts to lead others to their own spirituality, to guide others to discover their own spirituality. And for those of you who are in the advanced classes, and those of you who've been attending our workshops and retreats, you also recognize that your spirituality doesn't just consist of spirit guides. It consists of more than spirit guides. It consists of more than working with spirit guides. It often includes working with yourself. Let me give an example. When I talk about the law of silence, and some of you may have watched that old video class I have on my YouTube channel called Excel in Life using the law of silence. The law of silence doesn't have anything to do, per se, with your spirit guides. It has to do with you. Hello, Oboko. The law of silence doesn't have anything really to do with your spirit guides. It has to do with you. It is a personal spiritual discipline, and it's a difficult spiritual discipline. And why do I say it's difficult? Because if you are a talker like myself, it's very difficult to be silent. You always want to be talking. You always want to be heard. You have something to say. You always have an opinion. You want people to know your opinion. If you are offended, you want people to know that you are offended. If you are angry, you want people to know that you are angry. So it is a very difficult spiritual discipline. If you want people to know that you're right, that you're correct, it is a difficult spiritual discipline. It's very difficult because many of us like others to know that we're right, we're correct. And so sometimes, even when the spiritual, spiritual practitioner or religious leader says, you know what, don't say anything about this, we feel like this compulsion. Oh, I've got, I want to say something. I got to say something. I want people to know that I know. I want my enemy to know that I know what they're doing. And we don't see the spiritual implications of our talking when it's out of turn. And I speak from personal experience. Many of us struggle with it. Okay. Many of us struggle with this. Many spiritual practitioners struggle with this. I struggle with it because I have something to say. I have an opinion. I have a right. I have rights, and I want you to know that I know that I have rights. But for everything under the sun, there's a time and a season. That is the lesson of the law of silence. It's difficult. I'm not going to sit up here and say to you that it's a very easy discipline to master. No, it's not. Even now, at my age, with all I know, I still struggle with it. I see something going wrong and I have to say something. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and watch this mess. I'm not going to sit here and make it look like I'm co-signing to this foolishness here. I'm going to say something. I'm going to do something about it. And as soon as I say something about it, the whole situation is fucked up. So the reason why I'm saying this is that on the I know that a lot of us, when we get introduced to spirituality, we're all about the spirit guides. Who's my spirit guide? I want to know my spirit guide. What's the name of my spirit guide? How do I get in touch with my spirit guide? How do I know that I have a spirit guide? How do I know my spirit guide is here with me? Spirit guide, spirit guide, spirit guide, spirit guide, spirit guide. But once you've got the spirit guide portion of it down, then you have to start working on yourself. And that's the hard part. And when I coach my students, I make sure that we do have components where they're working on themselves. And they're not there just saying, oh, yeah, okay, anytime I have a little problem, I'm going to do a little ritual, I'm going to do a little offering, sacrifice, or whatever it is, and my problem will disappear. And I don't need to change myself. Mm-mm. Because if your personal energy is not in resonance with the outcomes you are trying to get from your ritual fail. If you're not in resonance with the ritual, the spell, the prayers, the invocations that you are doing, it will fail. And people don't like that. We like magic. I want to pray to Jesus, and I want Jesus to miraculously heal me without me having to change my diet, without me needing to change my environment, without me needing to change my habits, without me needing to change anything. I want Jesus to change me. And we put all responsibility of performance on Jesus. Meanwhile, Bros J is out there minding his own business, and Bros J, be like, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. Go get your act together. Leave me alone. So the other level of our spirituality is our spirit, working on our spirit, harnessing our spirit, understanding our own spirit. Because once you start getting a handle on yourself, then you can start interacting more effectively and efficaciously with your spiritual crew and your spirit guides. And when they speak, you will understand them better and you will obey faster because you've worked on yourself and you understand what's going on. And you become co creators with your spirit guides instead of being supplicants to your spirit guides. Many of us right now are supplicants to our spirit guides. Help me, help me, help me. Yamaya, help me. Ogun, help me. Erzuli, help me. Odin, help me. Hecate, help me. Alat, help me. Help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. Help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. And so when I talk about being a co-creator with your spirit guides, a lot of people understand it intellectually, but it is not embodied. So they really don't know what it means, but they understand the English that I'm speaking. They understand it. They understand the English that I'm speaking. You know what I'm saying? TikTok, hold on. Okay, thank you for waiting. So a lot of us understand that intellectually. So the fourth obstacle that many people experience when they do not answer the spiritual call is feeling physically and mentally exhausted. Okay. Many of us end up feeling spiritually dry. I'm praying, I'm fasting, I'm cleansing, I'm invoking, I'm doing all these things, and I'm tired. I'm mentally tired. I'm physically tired. All I want to do is just sleep, or all I want to do is just eat, or all I want to do is just drink. I don't want to do anything else. And this is water. Because I know some folks out there be saying, oh, she said drink. And she started drinking out of a beer keg. No, that's water. Okay, that was just water. So it's not unusual that we will start feeling exhausted, mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, all emotionally exhausted, financially exhausted. We're just tired. And we get to the point where we want to quit, we want to give up. And there's a lot of noise going on inside the head. And we're playing these tapes in our heads. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm stupid. I'm foolish. I don't deserve it. I'm not qualified. Others are better than me. I'm useless. And we start playing those tapes in our heads. And we don't realize that the simple solution to the problem is just to answer the spiritual call and say, I accept my spiritual call. And then go reconcile with our spiritual crew, align ourselves with our spiritual crew, and step forth into that spiritual practice. There are many people, and I was discussing it with someone. Was it in class yesterday? Someone remind me, or no, was it in class yesterday or somewhere? Anyways, I had so many things going on yesterday. I was saying to somebody, there are people who are doing their Jesus thing, they're doing their religious thing, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to dip my little pinky finger in spirituality and see if what I can get with this pinky finger is going to solve my problem. If I get a solution, a spiritual solution to my problem, I'm going to take it over to Jesus and see if Jesus approves of it before I start implementing it. There are many people who come to these classes, but they still wait for the approval of Jesus before they can implement anything that I'm teaching here. And if you're one of those people who come to class and you're watching my video classes and you're learning, you're taking notes, you have binders, you're doing all kinds of things, but somewhere you're saying, will Jesus approve of this? I want to say something to you. You are wasting your time here. This place is probably not where you need to be. Okay? This place is not probably not where you need to be. You need to be working out your Jesus situation. You need to be working out your Jesus egregores. Okay? You need to be figuring out your Jesus egregores. You need to be talking to your Jesus egregore, and you need to be saying to your Jesus egregore, how can you help me? How many more ways can I enslave myself to you so that I can get the solution to my issues? And hopefully, your Jesus egregore will respond. And because I say this because spirituality requires responsibility, because spirit guides that you're working with are transactional. Spirits are transactional. Even you yourself, you are transactional. You would not be in class today. You would not be watching this replay if you did not feel that there's something in it for you. So you too, you're transactional. I will watch this class. I will be in class as long as I get something out of it. If I don't get something out of it, I'm not going to be here. It's a waste of my time. So spirits are transactional, including you. You're a spirit. You are transactional. All of us are transactional. I'm teaching this class because it's part of my spiritual call. If it weren't part of my spiritual call, I would probably be at a party right now. I'll probably be at some spa. I'd probably be hanging out with my friends and family right now. But because I know that this is part of my life destiny, this is part of my life contract, I am here. And I'm doing this because I want my life to be in alignment and I want my life to be easy. So I set up a class and I teach the class. And if people choose to listen, it's on them. If people choose to practice what I'm teaching, it's on them. My part of the agreement is to teach. Hmm. My part of the agreement is to change and challenge the status quo of spirituality and religion. That's my part. My part is to say why. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing it like this? Is there another way this could be done? If I've been praying to Bros J for 50 years and I'm still not getting the things I want from Bros J, I need to have enough common sense to understand that there has to be another way. So I want to know what is the other way for me to get what I want. And so my spirituality says, okay, you can work with spirit guides, but you can also work with yourself. Are you still with me? Are you picking up what I'm dropping here? Anyone picking up what we're dropping here? Thank you. So when you are feeling physically and mentally exhausted and you can't seem to figure out the way forward and your money is funny and people are acting like they have no common sense, including you, and you don't know if you're coming or you're going, that is an invitation by life for you to stop. Stop everything and reassess your position. Stop. The fact that you're busy doesn't mean that you're busy doing the right thing. There are many of us who are kings and queens of busyness. You know, we have things to do. We're always busy doing things, and doing things, and doing things. But those things we're doing have nothing to do with the thing we actually need to do. But we're busy. And then we get tired, we get exhausted, and then we get frustrated, and we get disappointed and irritated. And we are like, why does no one see my sacrifice? Why is no one acknowledging my efforts? Is it possible that your efforts are not the ones that are required? Because myself, there are many times I'm involved in activities, and the activities I'm involved in are not required. They're not. I'm just being busy. And I'm hoping that everybody sees that I'm busy and everybody acknowledges that I'm busy. Oh, she's busy. But am I being busy about the things I need to be busy about? Or am I just being busy because it looks good? Being, looking busy is good for business. And if I am so consumed with performative spirituality means I am performing spirituality. I'm not practicing, but I'm performing. I'm going to be exhausted and I'm going to be tired and I'm going to be frustrated and I'm going to be irritated. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be resentful. And I'm going to get to the point where I want to give up and I want to quit. Meanwhile, my spiritual crew is on the side saying, you don't have to do all this. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Do what you are supposed to do, not what someone else is supposed to do. Some of us are so good at solving other people's problems and ignoring our own problems. But we're good at solving other people's problems. When some other people have problems, they come to us. Oh, yeah, I'll help you. Oh, it's my life purpose. The purpose of my life is to help others. But your life is in shambles. If I could get $10 each time a person told me my life purpose is to help others while theirs is in shambles, I would be able to get myself a nice Birkin bag. I hear it so many times from both men and women. Oh, my life calling, my life purpose is to help others. But they're sitting in divination with me, trying to find out why they're experiencing stagnation and obstacles in their own lives. Some years ago, a young man came to me and said, "Oh, I'm a community organizer, and I have so many people depending on me, and I'm a member of this, and and a director of the other, and I help to organize this and that and whatnot. And I have family members who are suicidal, and without me, they will take themselves out." And I said to him, "You're not that important." And he got offended. He said, "What do you mean I'm not that important? Without me, all these people will go to hell in a handbasket." And I said, stop being involved for 1 week and see if that your hypothesis is true. If you really want to know if you're that needed, stop for 1 week. Just say, you know what, I'm not available for 1 week and see what happens. You will find out that these people will replace you with another helper. Even your family members that tell you, if you're not here, I will go to the great beyond. You say, okay, go. They will not go. They will wait for you to come back. They will not go. They're not going to go nowhere. They're not going to go. So I said to him, you are practicing self-delusion. Your life is not moving forward. You are experiencing stagnancy. You are having obstacles. You are not fulfilled. But you lie to yourself and say, "Oh, my life purpose is to help others and to solve their problems and to bring them solutions." If that truly was your so-called life purpose, why are you unhappy? Why are you experiencing obstacles? Why are you experiencing stagnation? Because if you're fulfilling your so-called life purpose, you shouldn't be having obstacles. Everything should be going, you should be going with the flow. But you see, the world teaches us from a young age, especially if you're POC, person of color, you are taught from a very young age to carry the burden of others, to solve the problems of others. If you are the first child, You were told right from a young age, you need to care for others. The honorable thing to do is to care for others. If you're the first son, it is your job to protect and provide for others. If you're the first daughter, it's your job to sacrifice yourself and sacrifice your desires for the improvement and upliftment of the others. If you're a black woman, if you're a black man, it is your purpose to endure. It is your purpose to endure and prove that you are strong and prove that you are resilient and prove that no matter what is done to you, you will keep on rising. And so you're like, okay, bring it on. And then people start dumping on you, maltreating you, and you keep on rising. The lower they go, the higher you rise. And then you're 60, they're 60. They have a nice retirement fund. You are still working at Walmart. I remember one time I was working a corporate job and they brought in a black man to come and speak to the black network in the workplace. We had black employees network in that company. And they brought in a black man, African American man from out east to come and speak to us there. And this guy was ex-military. He was a veteran and he had a huge company out east, still connected to the military. And he came to talk to us about how we should grind and how we should be 10 times better and know our stuff stone cold. And of course, told us the requisite stories about how other Black people have excelled in their areas of endeavor by being 10 times better than their non Black counterparts and knowing their stuff stone cold, even though their counterparts didn't know that. So that and the point of all of that is if you know 10 times as much, you work 10 times as harder, then it becomes difficult to remove you or attack you within the organization. That was his point. And he was sharing with us examples of how, if other people go home early, you should stay behind and put in extra work as a person of color, as a Black person. You should stay back, put in more work, be the first to arrive and the last to leave, so that your superiors, your managers will your value will be self-evident to them. And so he spent all this time talking and giving us examples about all these people who overcame racism and discrimination and all kinds of things in the workplace because they worked 10 times as hard, they were more qualified, they were getting all these certifications and qualifications, and they were doing all these things so that even when other people complained against them in the organization, there was no basis for those complaints because the person was always on top of their work and did more and over and beyond. And then he said, "Does anyone have questions?" I had a question. And he said, "Yes." And I said to him, "So explain this to me. If, as a Black person, I don't go home at 5 o'clock from my corporate job and I'm here putting in more time, more hours, more effort, doing evening classes, night classes, doing extra work, taking on extra responsibility. But my non-black colleague gets to go home at 5. They get to go dating. They get married. They get to have a family, start a family, raise their family. They get to develop their social network. They have time to go play golf, make business connections. They go to business mixers. They get to go to events. But I don't get to go because I'm still at work trying to prove myself. How does this benefit me in the long run? Because if I'm to go by what you're telling us, I could be spending 10, 15 years proving myself within the organization, doing all these extra things you're saying I should do. But my colleague who is non-black, they have their family. They enjoy time with their family. They're raising their family. They get time to go on vacations and trips. And I have none of those things. I am out here being stressed out. And I'll age faster. And I don't have time to date. I don't have time for my marriage. I don't have time for my children. I don't have time to take care of myself. How does this benefit me in the long run? And the gentleman said, you know what his answer to me was? He says, be careful. You are wielding a double-edged sword. So, in other words, he knew what he was paid to come and do with us. He came to put in a certain kind of programming in our minds. He was paid to come and program our minds. You're black, and the expectation is that you work, you're resilient, you put in 10 times the amount of work that your colleagues do. That's the expectation, and that's how we're going to judge your excellence. And if you want to be accepted here, if you want to be included here, that's the expectation. So I said I don't think that's what I want to do. And I love Gen Z for that because Gen Z would tell you up front, that's not what I want to do. But of course, I'm not Gen Z. Okay. So back in the day when I said that, I responded that way. My response was considered heretical. It was considered uh, um, blasphemous. And I was earmarked as someone who was not a good fit, a nonconformist, a troublemaker. But I tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's not the sign of nonconformism or nonconformity. It is the sign of self awareness, knowing what will enhance your life and knowing what will not enhance your life. So your spirit guides, your spiritual core is saying you are called to spiritual practice. And if, excuse me, if you want a good life, if you want your life to be easy and smooth, do what you agreed to come here to do. And I agree. There are many of us who have shown up here and we forgot what we're supposed to do because, you go to work and there are people like that man saying, no, you need to stay here and grind. If the work hours start at 9, you should be at your desk at 7. And if the work hours are over at 5, you should leave your desk at 7. But that's not what you came here to do. And so that's why when you're doing that, when you're doing what he said you should do, you are frustrated and you are exhausted and you are angry and you are resentful and you are enraged and you are irritated and you are sick and you are tired. That's why. That's not what you came here to do. And so that's a pretty good gauge. Now, I'm not saying that being called to spiritual practice is the only reason why you will have this kind of obstacle, but a lot of times it is. And what you do is you go get a divination, or you know, you go to a spiritual practitioner, not a religious practitioner. You go to a spiritual practitioner to figure out spiritual things. But there are a lot of people who don't want to spend money. So they will go to a religious leader, a religious practitioner, because they figure, oh, if I go ask my prophet or prophetess in church, it's not going to cost me anything. But you can go and start asking a religious practitioner about spiritual practices. I am not going to go to my dentist for a hormonal problem, even though the dentist is a doctor, medical doctor. I am not going to go to my vet, the veterinary doctor. I'm not going to go to the vet and say, well, the vet treats my pets. The vet, knows about anatomy and physiology. So I'm going to go to my vet and ask my vet about my health issues. But there's some of us who, if we had the opportunity, we would do that. Some of us would be like, no, I don't want to talk to the doctor. I'm going to go to the vet. When I take my puppy over to go get treated and looked at, I'm going to ask the vet about my own health issues too and see if I can get a 2-for-1 special. There's some of us who are cheap like that. You have to go to a spiritual practitioner, a person who is familiar with spiritual practices. The only time I would subscribe to you going to a religious practitioner is if the religious practitioner is also a spiritual practitioner. And there are some who are that, especially if the person is into traditional religions or indigenous religions. A lot of people who are into traditional or indigenous religions are also spiritual practitioners. But I'm not going to go to my imam and ask my imam, was I called to spiritual practice? That's not their area of specialization. Okay. So if you're feeling exhausted, mentally tired, physically tired, spiritually dry, ready to give up, ready to quit, go ask questions, go investigate, do your due diligence. Don't assume. Don't sit there and say, "Oh, Dr. Tochi said, oh, I'm feeling this way because I was called to spiritual practice. Let me call myself to spiritual practice. Let me hie myself down to the riverside." That's not what I said. Go to your spiritual practitioner and ask for divination. Go to 2, 3 spiritual practitioners and ask them for spiritual divination and see if their results tally with each other. Pay attention to what you're seeing in your dreams, because oftentimes your spiritual crew will come to you in your dreams to tell you and remind you. They will say to you, "This is what you came here for." Not that all this other stuff you're doing that you think is important. That's not what you're here for. If you learned something from today's class, let's have your eye. AYE. Next week, we're going to continue with the 5th obstacle that you might experience when you have been called to spiritual practice. Quick announcement: at 4 o'clock, in roughly an hour from now, I am going to repeat the member class I did yesterday. Yesterday, I did a little class on how to start your day, rituals for starting your day. And after I did a combination video of a ritual and a class, and I reviewed the video and I'm going, I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this, and it was my first time of trying to do a video um that wasn't a ritual. Sorry, it was my first time trying to do a ritual that wasn't a face to face. And so it was kind of hard to gauge what was going on, and people were in the middle of the ritual trying to type questions and chat and stuff like that. And people were popping in whenever for the ritual, and that's not what we really want to do for our rituals. So I deleted the video from YouTube. So if you're a member on YouTube and you didn't see yesterday's video, that is what happened. At 4 o'clock my time, which is in about 55 minutes from now, I'm going to do a member class for all members, how to start your day. So I'm going to repeat what I taught yesterday. Okay. So get altar supplies. If you have your altar supplies, get that. If you have your little offerings and things, you can get that. Okay. And then moving forward, I'm just going to switch back to Google Meet for the rituals. Yeah, I'm not going to be running rituals on Patreon live and YouTube live again because it was a bit wonky. It was a bit wonky. So um that was that experiment. Okay. So I encourage you, if you are a member, to join um the member class. We'll take a break and then I'll restart a member live on both Patreon and YouTube. It's going to be live on both Patreon and YouTube, and then we'll be able to post that member class. It's not going to include the gratitude communion. So the ritual we did yesterday was the gratitude communion with the elementals. So we're not repeating that. That's done. So until next month. Okay. I'm also asking to find out if people are interested in a spiritual retreat like we did last December going into January, and just having a quiet time together for spiritual reflection, spiritual prayer, spiritual community. Okay, so I'm also trying to find out how many people will be interested in that. I will be doing the Reclaim Your Authority workshop again, but it's going to be in two parts. So the people who did the first part will be going on to level 2. Okay. And then I'll have a level 1 where I'll go over the basics again. And when in the Reclaim Your Authority workshop or retreat, that's where we start working on the personal aspects of your spirituality. So we're not working on spur guides. We're working on ourselves. Okay. And we're working on ourselves so that we can work better with our spur guides and work better with nature. Okay. Advanced members who are going to be doing more spiritual authority work, spiritual sovereignty work, inner authority work, embodiment work. That's where we're headed. So starting next Saturday. So advanced members, make sure you are following on Patreon to know what is going on, because now we are breaking away from the usual stuff we've been doing. So rituals and stuff will be for all members, but the embodiment stuff will be for advanced members. Okay. And then the cutting edge stuff will be for the workshops and the retreats. Okay. Because we'll be doing a lot of experimental stuff to see, does this work or doesn't work? Yeah. Is it helpful or it's not helpful? Okay. So with 2026, I'm cutting out a whole bunch of things, especially those classes and events where I keep putting them out, but people are not attending. Um, but people write me and say, "Oh, we want this, we want this, we want that," and then I go to ahead and put together those classes and workshops, and people are not attending the way they're supposed to attend. So for 2026, all of that is gone. So if you have some favorite um, classes and events you used to watch from afar, and you're now seeing that I'm no longer presenting them, is because it's no longer worth my energy and my while to do that. Okay. And if you're one of those people that keep writing me suggesting this class and that class and the other class, but you never attend any of those classes when they're done, please stop suggesting those classes, because it doesn't make sense that you're suggesting do this class, do that class. I want this class, it's important to me, this class and the other class. And then when those classes are put together, you don't attend. It don't make sense. So please, if you know you're not willing to commit to it, don't be writing me and asking me to offer it, because it takes me time to put together these classes. Okay? It takes time and effort to put together these classes. Okay? So I'll be seeing members. Members, remember to return to both Patreon and YouTube in about 45 minutes time for the member class. Okay? We're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirits, our ancestors, and our spirit guides for today's class. May it continue yielding fruit in our lives. Ashe. We say. Kamago, Koza, Lasedi, Mkwande. Aibobo, it is finished, it's done, it's complete. Amen. And yet ho. Thank you all for coming. Love you all. And thank you to all of you on TikTok who joined. W man, black.